total transformation.
What's all this?
Oh, happy birthday, darling. I think we forgot. These people are from the very best men's shop in town. I had to close it down for the day.
Oh, Melissa, I can't do this.
Darlings, do it.
Happy birthday, welcome to your shop. What's going on? Help yourself, it's all been taken care of.
Hi, I'm Patty Granville. I'd like to welcome you today to Arts in Action. Joining me on the set in the Garland Civic Theater setting for Bad Seed, which is coming up, Kyle McClaran, Artistic Director of Garland Civic Theater. Kyle, it is a joy to have you here on your set.
Thank you.
And it's been just the most magnificent journey we just had doing Sunset Boulevard for Garland Civic Theater. And a lot of the pieces we're sitting on are part of the set, the things that keep getting moved around. But I was thinking, before we talk about the rest of the shows for the season, I'd like to talk about you and your amazing design work, not only lighting, sets, set dressing. Where does it all begin? Like, let's talk about Sunset Boulevard.
So let go.
I can show her an outline road. Let me swallow the veins.
Because the costumes, the set itself, people were just totally overwhelmed with it.
Well, the shows always have, of course, their own personality and style. And of course, Sunset Boulevard is very stylish and glamorous, and it's also out of a very stylish and glamorous period. The silent movie star's era had to be washed all over the clothes on the house, even though it took place in the 50s. So I knew that I didn't even want to try to go for the magnificence of the opulence. So I say to myself, in what way can I maintain the opulence of this show without having to go for the endless grandeur that it calls for? And it also has a lot of settings.
This was dawn. There were no rules. We were so young.
And this is a smaller space, so I figure out what areas have to be simplified, and I knew the house had to be the main thing, so I went for the house and tried to adjust everything else into it. And then in my mind, I didn't look at pictures. I generally don't do that. I don't look at architecture things. There's enough of it in my mind, because on the stage, I want the representation of reality, which is what it's supposed to be. And unlike film, on stage, you can have that wonderful sense of abstraction and capturing elements of it without having to have a truly authentic bronze staircase or whatever.
Right.
So you have to capture those things. And I knew I wanted color, I wanted sparkle, I wanted metal effect, I wanted metallics, that's why you were dressed in so much, not because I like glitter or sparkly, but that was such a part, the metal, the chrome look, the sparkly, that was such a part of the 20s glamour, which she had come out of.
We had so
Norma
many
Desmond.
people saying they wanted to buy all the costumes. And how many were there? You know, about 12 or 13 costume changes.
You started out with 13, and I think we got it down to 11,
okay.
Each with all its jewelry, all its headpieces, and there might have even been
a lot of layers.
A little more elaborate even, but changes don't allow it. I mean, she has to change quickly, and yet she has to look perfectly put together every time. So there's a challenge right there. And then color on top of that. It had to be the right colors to look right with the right moment. And it had to be the colors that look good on Norma Desmond, or Patty Granville as Norma Desmond. So I always take all that into consideration. I love color. I think when I design anything, I want it to be my first thought, even if it's simple. Like this is for Bad Seed, this is a house. So when I can, for budget reasons, I design the set so I can maybe two together work the next one out of the one before. That's not to not give someone something different. As a matter of fact, most people wouldn't even know that any of it was even the same stuff. I transform it, but I try to maintain a basic structure and build off that. That's just a way of planning so that I can make things more financially balanced, and I don't have to have, if I go big on building on one, I try to use part of that again in another and completely transform the angles and the look and the colors and the period and the atmosphere.
Well, I know you do a lot of design on paper too, as far as when you have your builder, I'm sure you have the design, and in your mind a lot of it is on paper, but a lot is in your head too, I'm
well,
sure.
the structure or the actual technical building parts that have to be built have to be on paper, because this is an unusually sized room. But that's one of the, for me, and I think whether the audiences always realize it or not or think about it, it has unusual angles, but angles sometimes, as we all know, in architecture and design make things even better. It has unusual angles to look from and come at. And you can sit on the stage right audience and see it, and then you can, if you were there another time, you can sit on the stage left, and it's it's like a different visual show because it looks different from all angles, and it's designed to.
And it makes it a very unique setting.
Oh,
and
yes.
all of your sets, I feel like you can walk in and live in them.
Well,
they're livable.
My design element on anything I do is about, I don't necessarily want it to be thought of as a set. Now that's where I push in reality a little more. I like it to feel like, if it's a house, I want to believe that someone lives there. And you and other people sometimes have said to me, sometimes jokingly, sometimes seriously, I want to live there.
Right.
Well, that's what I go for. I want to make it look appealing, like you want to really like it. If you really like the show, if you like the way it looks, and the background of what you're watching is pleasing to you, the audience is going to enjoy the play more. So my intention is always to give them something to look at that's appropriate for what's happening in the play, of course. But I really want it to be a feast for the eyes, be it glamorous and epic or be it simple and homey. Well, it still must be a feast for the eyes.
You know, and another thing that adds to the feast for the eyes is the lighting. And people don't even take, and of course in the musical you have the music is built in, but in the rest of your shows you spend hours, I know, doing your background music and selecting those and going through that and having those bits that will come up to play up a dramatic moment. But the lighting itself, like each little area, like each bouquet or each chair, each one has special lighting throughout the show.
Because one might not normally see that except in a museum, but somehow you can still get a natural look on a stage by doing that. That's what brings the set alive.
Yes.
And when people don't like those things, they fall off into the background. And I don't necessarily want them to become a part of the scene, but they have to create an ambiance. And the lighting is what really gives it the ambiance of the mood and all that's going on.
Now we're heading toward Bad Seed.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about Bad Seed. It is a living room setting.
Yes. My favorite kind of set. It's one setting. There are no
Don't
scene
have to
changes.
worry about all these
it
scene
all
changes.
takes place in one thing. I added into this show a patio area because the living room needed a little more intimacy to it, which is basically half the stage. And rather than having this huge stage and spread out a living room on it or make it look barren, I added the patio so I could size in the living room. So there are scenes that can play out on the patio actually really well. And then I had to do some unique, I shall call it unique stage designs to give a sort of 3D look to justify looking out windows that they talk about a lot. And I felt when they're looking out the window, the audience needs to see something of what they're looking at. And so I split into it a patio.
Now I see there's a piano on the set. Is there going to be some piano playing in it? I know you have a pianist.
The little
in the show.
girl plays the piano. Yes, she does. Not a whole lot. I mean, it's not like a major production number or anything, but there's piano playing at certain times, and they do talk about it, yes.
Give us I know Bad Seed was a famous movie too, and as far as the little girl that seems to have a negative element around her at all times. Give us just, without telling the whole story, just a little synopsis.
It is a family in which the mother is worried about her background, and she's always had a dream that she was adopted. And the movie is based. The movie was from the book, and the play came from both. Maxwell Anderson wrote the book, and in it he has this whole theory about can murderous or dark, unsavory traits be inherited, and that's basically at the core of this. The bad seed did this. That's what they're in reference to, the seed of life. That was she born? The problems that this little girl may or may not have, were they born into her, and did they come from her mother? And that's basically what it's about. There is a drowning of a little boy, and the little girl in the show, who is basically the center of focus in the show, is accused of this, and that's what it's all based around. But it's also, everyone thinks about this child that's supposed to be so dangerous. What the show really is about her mother's own demise and how she moves toward her own ruin. And it's about that as well.
It's a psychological show.
It is a psychological thriller. And if you're not familiar with Maxwell Anderson, he writes the most incredible characters. They're rich, they're deep, they're full of nuance, they're fascinating to watch. Very difficult to play, and very complicated mentally and psychologically and emotionally. And he weaves this incredible emotional thread that seems to go through everybody for a different reason. And it holds the play together with great excitement and great personal involvement. And the things that he talks about are very human, and people relate to the subjects that he talks about.
Now, I know you have coming up Watson, which goes along with the murder mystery trend that you generally do, and this is a little bit different. This is the Sherlock Holmes.
It is. Watson is a Sherlock Holmes mystery. It's got a flair of comedy, and it's got a flair of style that's different from generally Sherlock Holmes in general. But it's Sherlock Holmes spoken of and talked about from the point of view of his sidekick, Watson. And so the central character, Sherlock Holmes is in it in a big way, but the central character is Watson, who talks about, and you just see it all from his point of view and what he thought of Sherlock Holmes and the things about Sherlock Holmes and how they developed and all. But it's a fun show. It's different. It's unique. It's very clever. And it should be quite something.
And that opens March 5th, and Josh Hensley is directing that one.
Right, who played opposite you, of course, in Sunset
Joe,
Boulevard.
And
a wonderful actor.
Multi-talented young man.
Yes.
And I had seen him do Rocky Horror Show. Was the only thing I'd seen until he did Sunset Boulevard, and I was just so totally in awe of his performance. He just is a Renaissance man.
He has done many things
like
for us, and I've never been anything but impressed. I told him, you know, he has, I'll talk about this for a reason, he has a fascinating orange hair, you know, and it's real.
Yes.
It's one of those real rare orange color hairs. When I was a child, I had that same color hair. And I told him, and people tease him about it all the time and everything, but it looks great on stage.
Yes.
And I said to him, when this play is over, there's going to be everything orange that's in Garland Civic Theater on this set except your hair.
and he built this one.
Well, there's orange for a reason. I was talking earlier. This is there's something in a D.H. Lawrence novel about saying to a character that she wears orange all the time, ironically, which is the color of deception. And it is that was in my head that
with all the orange.
I actually drowned it in orange because the family is drowning in their own deceptions about themselves, about not accepting things about family members, lies from the past. So deception engulfs this play. And for some, that maybe seem a little extraordinary choice, a bit of an extraordinary choice, but it really, really plays. And when I watch the play and there's this orange everywhere, it's interesting. There's something about orange. You know, it's not red. Orange is not brown. It's not yellow. Orange is its own thing. There's nothing like it. There are other bright colors, but orange is so odd to me. It's always been an odd color that I've been fascinated by.
This is the most I think you've ever used
well,
it.
I don't know that I've hardly ever used much orange at all, but this
purple
one,
is a good one.
Yes,
you
purple
love
is a good
purple
one.
and pinks.
Yes, pink is a great color for sets, and people think it's not. And of course, supposedly, a long time ago, there was a theory that you do not put yellow on costumes or on stage. So anybody that approves of that theory, oh well.
This is like a cinema. You walk in and it's like a movie. I know so many times in your shows, you feel like you are at a movie because of the background music and everything that you spend. And if you spend a lot of time now with Bad Seed on the background music,
Lots
I'm sure.
of time, months. So, because it's so specifically, the ideas that he writes are so specifically clear that if there is something that accompanies it, I always try to explain the use of music, and a lot of people like it, and some people that are theater aficionados don't. But my reason for using it, they say, don't you think the actor has enough ability to make that work without the music? And my answer is yes. But so many people that come to theater nowadays are not necessarily theater based or have been an audience, their whole life. So I use the music to help them be pulled into the play like they're pulled into a movie or a TV show, which they're used to. And that is just something that it just helps. It just happens. It's only an adornment. If an actor, actually, I tend to use more music behind people the stronger they are, because it just enhances
Absolutely.
what they're doing. It's not meant to replace anything or substitute or cover up for anything. It is just a little accent of adornment. It's like if you, a sort of a crazy thing is an audience member might like a role more the more appealing visually the person is that's playing it. And it's the same thing. If everything around that voice and around that performance is even more appealing, it makes it even more appealing to the audience.
I definitely think it definitely enhances it. Well, we have just a couple minutes left, and we'll talk about the final show of this season, which you will be directing, Carrie, the musical, opening April 16th.
Yes, and we've been very excited about that. We have had so much attention coming early on that, people wanting to audition for it, people wanting to know when they can buy the tickets for it. So I'm hoping that it will do very well, and that it's going to give audiences something very interesting and very exciting to look at. It is Stephen King's novel, which is, if anybody is not familiar with Stephen King, and in your head you have that, oh, he writes these gross, bloody murder thrillers. That's not what it is. That's part of the story, and that's in there. But Stephen King wrote that as a comment on bullying that long ago. And it is about bullying in a high school, which is where it's set, and what comes of it. And he, of course, brings supernatural powers into it. That's part of his style of writing, which is the telekinesis. But it's still all based. He always has a very moral point to make. He has value in what he writes. And if you're thinking, I don't want to see that, it's a bloody, gory bloodbath, that's not what it is. It is the story that Stephen King wrote, but it has great purpose to it. And of course, we're not about designing a show that's just based on blood and gore. That's not what it is.
Well, I know there's a lot of excitement
Yes.
about that show coming up and about the rest of the season too. It's been a fabulous season. And thank you, Kyle, for all your creativity, for everything you bring to Garland Civic Theater. You are the consummate theater. Not only you're a fabulous performer, but director, lighting designer, set designer, costumes, you do it all. And you're up here doing it all the time.
I do it all, and I love it all. And I do it not because I want to do everything myself, but just because I love doing it.
Well, thank you. We look forward to seeing Bad Seed opening very soon, and we'll see all of you next time on Arts in Action.